Good morning. I'm Stephen Leake, and I'm an elder at First Presbyterian Church of Mesquite, Texas. And I'm also the teacher of the Discipleship Sunday School class there. Today we're continuing with our study of the Gospel of John. And our study is based on the study guide from the Daily Bible Study Series, which is written by Professor William Barclay. Also, the version of the Bible that we use for our scripture readings is the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible, which is the version of the Bible that is used by our church. Last week we finished that great story of the woman at the well with Jesus. And we left Jesus there in Samaria with a lot of newfound followers, Samaritans no less. So today we're going to take up there and follow Jesus as he returns to Galilee. Our first scripture reading is John 43 through 45. When 2 days were over, he went from that place to Galilee. For Jesus himself had testified that a prophet has no honor in the prophet's own country. When he came to Galilee, the Galileans welcomed him, since they had seen all that he had done in Jerusalem at the festival, for they had gone to the festival. Now all three synoptic gospels tell of the saying of Jesus that prophets have no honor in their own country. That from Mark 6:4, Matthew 13:57, and Luke 4, verse 24. It was an ancient proverb with much the same meaning as our own familiarity breeds contempt. But John introduces it in a very strange place. The other Gospels introduce it on occasions when Jesus was rejected by the people of his own country. John introduces it on an occasion when he was accepted. It may be that John is reading the mind of Jesus. We have already seen that Jesus left Judea and set out for Galilee to avoid the controversy that increasing publicity was bringing to him. And he felt that the hour of conflict had not yet come. It may be that his great success in Samaria had actually surprised him. His words about the astonishing harvest have the ring of glad surprise about them. It may be that Jesus went to Galilee hoping to find rest and retirement there. And it may be that exactly the same thing happened in Galilee as happened in Samaria, that against all expectations there was a surge of response to his teaching. We must either explain the saying in this way or assume that somehow it's in the wrong place. The Samaritans believed in Jesus because they themselves had heard him speak wonderful things. The Galileans believed in him not because someone had told them about him, but because they had seen him do wonderful things in Jerusalem. The words he spoke and the deeds he did were arguments to which there could be no rebuttal. Here we have one of the great truths of the Christian life. The only real argument for Christianity is a Christian experience. It may be sometimes that we have to argue with people until the intellectual barriers which they have erected are battered down, and the citadel of their mind capitulates. But in the great majority of cases, the only persuasion we can use is our own testimony. We say, I know what Jesus is like and I know what Jesus can do. All that I ask you is to try him yourself and see what happens. Effective Christian evangelism really begins when we can say, I know what Christ has done for me. Here again, tremendous personal responsibility is laid upon us. No one is likely to attempt the experience and lest our own lives show its value. If our own lives are gloomy, worried, and defeated, we are not good witnesses for Christ. Then he came again to Cana in Galilee. Oh, I'm sorry, I've changed the scripture and forgot to tell you. Now we're on John chapter 4, verses 46 through 54. Then he came again to Cana in Galilee, where he had changed the water into wine. Now there was a royal official whose son lay ill in Capernaum. When he heard that Jesus had come from Judea to Galilee, he went and begged him to come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. Then Jesus said to him, "Unless you see signs and wonders, you will not believe." The official said to him, "Sir, come down before my little boy dies." Jesus said to him, "Go, your son will live." The man believed the word that Jesus spoke to him and started on his way. As he was going down, his slaves met him and told him that his child was still alive. So he asked them the hour when he began to recover, and they said to him, "Yesterday at 1 in the afternoon, the fever left him." The father realized that this was the hour when Jesus had said to him, "Your son will live." So he himself believed, along with his whole household. Now this was the second sign that Jesus did after coming from Judea to Galilee. Now most commentators think this is another version of the story of the healing of the centurion's servant, which is told in Matthew 8, verses 5 through 13, and Luke chapter 7, verses 1 through 10. But there are differences which justify us in treating it as quite independent. The conduct of this royal official is an example to us all. First, here is a royal official who came to a carpenter. The Greek indicates that the official was a royal official and that he was a man of high standing in the court of Herod. Jesus, on the other hand, had no greater status than that of a village carpenter from Nazareth. Further, Jesus was in Cana, and this man lived in Capernaum, almost 20 miles away. That is why he took so long to get back home. There could be no more improbable scene in the world than an important court official hastening 20 miles to beg a favor from a carpenter. He, first and foremost, he swallowed his pride. He was in need, and nothing stopped him from bringing this need to Christ. His action would cause a sensation, but he didn't care what people said, so long as he obtained the help he so much wanted. If we want the help which Christ can give, we must be humble enough to swallow our pride and not care what anyone else might say. Second, here is a royal official who refused to be discouraged. Jesus met him with the bleak statement that people would not believe unless they were supplied with signs and wonders. It may well be that Jesus aimed the saying not so much at the official himself, but at the crowd that must have gathered to see the outcome of this unusual happening. They would be there all agog to see what would happen. But Jesus had a way of making sure that a person was earnest. If the man had turned irritably and petulantly away, if he had been too proud to accept a rebuke, if he had given up on the spot, Jesus would know that his faith was not real. Third, here was a royal official who had faith. It must have been hard for him to go home with only Jesus' assurance that his child would live. It is of the very essence of faith that we should believe what Jesus says is true. Fourth, here was a royal official who surrendered. He was not a man who forgot that his prayer was answered. He and his whole household believed, and that would not be easy for him. The idea of Jesus as the anointed one of God must have shaken all of his preconceived notions. Nor would it be easy at the court of Herod to profess faith in Jesus. He would endure mockery and laughter, and some would think him mad. But this royal official was a man who faced and accepted the facts. He had seen what Jesus could do. He had experienced it, and there was nothing left but to surrender. He had begun with a sense of desperate need. That need had been supplied, and his sense of need had turned into overwhelming love and gratitude. That must always be the story of the Christian life. Now, our lesson ends here today, but I'm going to talk about chapters 5, 6, and 7 and talk about what most theologians think about the order of those chapters. Most New Testament scholars think that at this point in the fourth gospel, chapters must have been misplaced. Most hold that chapter 6 should come before chapter 5. Because chapter 4 ends with Jesus in Galilee, but chapter 5 begins with Jesus in Jerusalem. But chapter 6 again shows us Jesus in Galilee. And chapter 7 begins with the implication that Jesus had gone to Galilee because of the opposition which he had met in Jerusalem. The changes between Jerusalem and Galilee are very difficult to follow. Chapter 4 ends with the phrase, "the second sign that Jesus did after coming from Judea to Galilee." And chapter 6 begins, "After this, Jesus went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee." And that's a natural sequence. Chapter 5 shows Jesus going to Jerusalem for a feast and meeting serious trouble with the Jewish authorities. And then chapter 7 begins, Jesus went about in Galilee and did not wish to go to Jerusalem because the Jews were looking for an opportunity to kill him. Now, our study will not change the order, but I just want you to note that switching chapters 5 and 6 may give you a clearer picture of what was happening. Thanks again for listening. God bless each and every one of you.